Real estate is a subject which catches the attention of many. Why? Because of money. Real estate is considered to be a necessity. Everybody needs a home. Just like you need food on the table, you need a place where to sleep. For that reason, the real estate market has summoned enormous resources and has been the source of fortune of many an individual. Currently, the real estate market of the United States is subject to a state of overheating. There is a shortage of houses and there is an excess of demand. This has created crisis in particular with regards to so-called cheap housing, the housing for the poor. Currently, however, due to the fact that the inflation rate is high, the central bank is bound to raise interest rates. This is bringing up to a slowdown of the economy and a movement of resources from the stock market, most probably to all traditional forms of investment such as real estate. Thus, there should be an increase in supply of housing, in particular since, as we mentioned before, the market in some areas of the world is overheated. An overheated market means a market that has high margins and high profits, where there is a demand for the product that is offered. For that reason, in a free economy, it is probable that there will be entrepreneurs which will act to supply the needs of the market, thus to supply more housing. Thus, in the medium to long term, the market in the United States should cool down. In Europe, the situation is similar. Since 2016, housing prices have been rising more or less on average approximately 4.6% on a year-to-year basis. Soon, once the market will have cooled down, it will be the moment to buy a house. But there are reasons for buying a house and there are reasons against. Let's try to consider some of them. The first reason against is that a mortgage is a considerable commitment. It can last from 10 to 30 years and it is a substantial drain on one's monthly savings. The second reason to consider is that the money that one invests in purchasing a house could actually be invested in a more fruitful entrepreneurial venture, which in the long term would give more lucrative results. So instead of buying a house, you could rent out and maybe start a small shop or a small restaurant, thus in the long term guaranteeing your own economic prosperity, instead of blocking your resources with monthly payments to a bank, which in a certain sense might even oblige you to a non-pleasurable work as an employee for many years. As a rule of thumb, renting costs 50% less than actually paying a mortgage. The third reason to consider is that a mortgage is a source of worry. It can harm the peace of your sleep. Not only the worries can be such that there might be an impact on the quality of the work that you actually do when you're with your employer. A mortgage is similar to a nightmare. It can ruin the good mood of your life, being a source of depression and health problems. This leads us to the fourth reason against having a mortgage. The fourth reason is that a mortgage can have an impact on the flexibility of your employment. Since you need the money, since you need the regular income, you might be extremely reluctant and cautious on your work. It's hard to do your job when you are subject to a constant threat. It's harder to take initiative, it's hard to break rules and norms, sometimes necessary to do a good job. So having a mortgage can have an impact on your capacity to take the risks necessary for an adequate career in your particular line of employment. In the US, finding a new job can be relatively easy, even if could be problematic. In Europe and in some areas where the labor market is less fluid, as mentioned before, finding a new job can be difficult. And this is to have an impact on the choices of one's life logically. The fifth and final reason that is considered in this brief video is that religion might have an impact on the choice of an individual of whether to take a mortgage or not to take a mortgage. Two religions in particular frown upon taking debts. First of all, the Christians consider that one has to be a lender, not a debtor, but somebody who lends money rather than somebody that asks money from a third party. Muslims consider lending money to be sin. Thus, for them, having a mortgage is actually a traditional mortgage is actually a problem. So it's simply not an option if one is Islamic. Once we have actually considered the reasons against having a mortgage, all the worries, all the preoccupations, all the issues, let us now consider the reasons for direct home ownership and for asking a mortgage. The first most interesting reason for actually being a homeowner is that a home, a real estate, a house, is an investment that can beat inflation. Traditionally, home ownership is a store of value that does not lose its clout with time. Of course, it depends on the state in which your house is and depends on the durability of the building itself. But overall, a home, a real estate, maintains its value with time. Thus, real estate is a particularly interesting investment there where the inflation rate is high. There where an economic system offers more security and the inflation rate is low, quite often it is best to plan other forms of investment which result being more lucrative. There where the economic system is more stable, there where there are less worries, you might want to invest in the stock market, thus having a share of the profits of somebody else's venture, or you might want to start your own business, since with a low rate of inflation, with stability of the economic system, you can plan and you can take into consideration the different aspects of starting a new business. A stable economic system has a low level of risk. A low level of risk is what actually facilitates and permits new ventures to be born. Where the risk level is low, ventures are to be preferred, for planning is possible. When the risk level is high, well, you need more security, and real estate seems to be more an attractive option available to the single individual. The second reason which favors the ownership of a house is that you can always rent the house out. It can lead to another new flow of money in any moment there where you can find an acceptable tenant. Tenants, however, have the tendency to destroy a house rather than simply giving money as a form of rent. But nonetheless, it is a way of obtaining resources from one's investment. Not only there's sometimes no need to rent the whole house, but one can rent single rooms out, so to obtain partial recovery from the enormous investment that real estate is. The third main reason for ownership of a house, for opening a mortgage and buying one's own real estate, is the warm, fuzzy feeling of homeownership. A house is something that you can customize, something that you can make a reflection of your own personality, somewhere where you live in and somewhere where you live your dreams. In a certain sense, it's an aim of life. For that reason, one can favor house ownership, not so much as an investment, but rather as an element of self-satisfaction. In the past, home ownership was so costly that there used to be a family home, a family house, rather than the possibility for the single members of the family to own their own properties. With modern technology, it is now possible to own a house at an acceptable price, even if we would consider due to our everyday budgets that such a price still is extremely high. But nonetheless, it is possible to have your own property and to pay it within your own lifetime. Thus, becoming a homeowner is a possible dream come true. And that is a good reason to buy a house, that is a good reason to open a mortgage. The fourth and final reason that I have considered in favor of actually being a homeowner is that as a homeowner you no longer have to fight with the landlord. Conflicts with the landlord can always be a problem. However, it's a two-sided coin. On the one side, you no longer have conflict with the landlord. On the other side, the landlord was useful there where there was a problem with the house. You see, there where you have to pay a rent, if there's an issue, you can always go to the landlord and the landlord has to fix it. But there where you are the owner of the house, you have to fix the issue yourself. Even if, as an owner, you can fix it in the way that most suits you and most satisfies you. Well, that's a quick overview of the reasons in favor and against opening a mortgage and owning a house. Now, the situation, the circumstance of every individual is different, and not all houses are the same. The relevance of the investment can vary according to the area of the city where one wants to invest, according to the country, according to the broad geographical area in which one resides. The United States is one thing, Europe is another, Africa is another, and Asia is yet another reality. So it is impossible, it's very hard to give an overall rule of behavior and to give counsel which is valid everywhere where one is. But I think we have given here a simple framework, even if quite limited, which permits the choice of the single individual as to whether home ownership should take place or whether the individual should continue renting and using the resources that are freed from the fact that he is not obliged to pay a mortgage in a more satisfying way. Well, that's all for today. I hope that you enjoyed the video. I hope it was useful. Don't forget to give a thumbs up and to subscribe, and please check out the other videos on the channel. They might be of interest, you might consider them of relevance. Hope to see you in the next video. Bye bye.